A child born from suffering and rage, untainted by fear, and hardened by the cruelty of the world. What could such a soul unleash? A power so raw, so unrelenting, it could burn through existence itself, reducing everything to ash.
They thought they buried me, but I was only learning how to breathe underground. I remember the silence, heavy, suffocating, almost holy. Every heartbeat was a drumbeat of defiance. Every whisper in the dark told me, they think it's over. And maybe it was, for the version of me that still believed in mercy. But not for me, not for the thing I became beneath the rubble. I clawed my way through the dirt of my own doubts. My fingernails split, my lungs filled with dust and hate and prayer. And when I finally rose, I didn't rise as who I was. I rose as what they created. A weapon, a storm, a reckoning. They said I was finished. I said, watch me. There's a certain sound when a soul hardens, like glass cracking, then turning to diamond. That's what happened inside me. Every betrayal was pressure. Every mockery was heat. Every time they counted me out, they handed me another hammer to forge myself sharper. I used to beg for understanding. I used to lower my voice, dim my light, pretend I wasn't made of fire. I thought being humble would save me, but humility only made me invisible to those who feast on kindness. Now I don't whisper, I roar. They call me dramatic. They call me delusional, but I call it divine madness, because it takes a little insanity to rise from ashes, with your teeth still clenched and your eyes still burning. When they laughed, I memorized the rhythm. When they turned away, I memorized their footsteps. When they said, "You'll never make it," I carved those words into my bones as coordinates. Every insult became a compass, pointing me back to the throne they said I'd never reach. I am not motivated by revenge. Revenge is too small for the scale of what I've become. I'm motivated by the silence after the storm, the moment when every doubter realizes I was the thunder they ignored. I am not chasing validation. I am the validation. My existence is proof that endurance can be sculpted into greatness. They wanted me to break. I didn't. I bent reality instead. They thought the darkness would consume me, but I made the darkness my cathedral. I learned to pray with my fists, to speak to God through grit. I stopped asking for miracles and started becoming one. Now I move like prophecy. Every step echoes with unfinished vengeance, not against them, but against the version of me that believed they were right. That version is gone, buried, burned, forgotten. When they see me now, I can taste their fear. It's metallic. It smells like regret. They recognize the shape of what they created, but not the power of what I became. They see the same face, but the eyes, they're not eyes anymore. They're verdicts. They thought they could define me with their silence, but silence only gave me room to hear my true voice. The one that doesn't ask permission. The one that speaks in storms and bleeds electricity. I don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel anymore. I am the tunnel. I am the light. I am the end. They will regret counting me out. Not because I'll destroy them. No, because I'll outlive them. They'll fade into the background noise of their own mediocrity, while my name hums in the bones of those who dared to doubt me. Their legacy will be excuses. Mine will be echoes that refuse to die. There's beauty in being underestimated. It's the purest freedom. They never saw me coming because they never looked twice. They never realize the quiet ones are the ones who calculate. The ones who bleed in silence are the ones who rise without warning. I built my empire in the shadows, brick by brick, scar by scar. I didn't need applause. I needed purpose, and purpose found me when everything else left. Now, I walk with ghosts who once tried to bury me. They whisper lessons instead of threats. The demons I used to fear now march behind me like soldiers. Every one of them carries a name, a face, a reason. I don't hide them anymore. I lead them. They think I became cold. They're wrong. I became precise. Sympathy clouds the aim. Empathy dulls the blade. I cut clean now, surgical. I don't seek justice. I create balance. When the scales tip against me, I don't cry out. I rebuild the whole scale. They mistake silence for peace. But silence is the inhale before the explosion. They thought I would disappear quietly. Instead, I became the noise they can't ignore. Oh, you can't stop me. I wasn't born with a crown. I wasn't handed anything. I clawed my way through blood, glass, and betrayal just to breathe. I watched as the world tried to drown me in silence, but I learned how to breathe underwater. They thought I'd break. I didn't. I bent. I snapped back. Stronger, sharper, scarred, yes. But scars are just the body's way of saying, I survived things you couldn't. I didn't just walk through hell. I built a home in it. I learned its language. I danced with the demons. I carved my name into the walls of every nightmare they sent. And now, even the darkness knows not to mess with me. They don't get it. They never will. This isn't confidence. This is certainty. This isn't rage. This is focus. Every time they underestimated me, I grew sharper. Every time they tried to stop me, I became unstoppable. They tried to bury me, and all they did was plant a seed. I've bled in silence. I've shattered alone. But I never stayed down. I rose, not clean, not whole, not unbroken, but more dangerous than ever. Because now I know. I don't need permission. I don't need approval. I don't need anyone to believe in me. I believe in me. I became my own weapon. I stopped begging for mercy the moment I realized the world doesn't hand it out. It takes it. So I took mine. Every ounce of pain they gave me, I kept. Every betrayal, stored it. Every doubt, every sneer, every back turned, I forged into armor. Now they wonder why nothing gets to me anymore. It's simple. You can't cut someone who's already been carved into a masterpiece of pain. I don't have a soft heart anymore. They ripped it out when they called it weakness. I replaced it with fire. It burns constantly, not out of hate, but purpose. That fire drives me, feeds me, keeps me alive. And I know, they hoped I'd fold. They prayed I'd collapse quietly so they wouldn't have to face what they did. But I didn't. I refused. I looked in the mirror and saw the truth. I saw the monster I became to survive. And I didn't flinch. I nodded. I said, I see you. Let's go to war. You think you can stop me? You'd have better luck trying to hold back a tsunami with bare hands. I am the storm now. I am the reckoning they tried to avoid. I'm not just walking toward my goals. I'm tearing through every obstacle with the force of 1,000 broken promises. They say I changed. Of course I did. I evolved. I adapted. I upgraded. I am not here to be liked. I am not here to be understood. I am here to win. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. I'll wear that title. But let's be clear. I didn't start the fire. I became it. I stopped explaining myself when I realized explanations are just ammo for cowards. Let them guess. Let them whisper. Let them fear what they cannot predict. I move in silence now, not because I'm afraid, but because wolves don't howl when they hunt. They strike. This world doesn't respond to pity. It bows to power. And I've built mine in the shadows, forged it in agony, sharpened it in isolation. No one was there when I cried through clenched teeth. No one showed up when I fought battles no one saw. So don't expect me to make space for their comfort now. I was never meant to blend in. I was never meant to play small. I was built for more. Every instinct in me screams, go farther, go harder, don't stop. Not until bones break. Not until the earth cracks beneath my steps. Not until destiny kneels before me and says, I belong to you. I've buried versions of myself just to stay alive. Killed the soft parts, smothered the innocence. But I kept going, and every part I buried became fuel for the part that rose.
Your father is the man the world tried to bury and accidentally crowned. They broke his heart and thought that was the end of him. But he dug his way out of the grave they built, piece by bleeding piece, and stitched himself back together with rage, faith, and fire. He is the prayer nobody answered, that decided to answer itself.
So I wasn't born like this. I remember that much. There was a time my hands were empty. My eyes were soft. My heart still believed in rescue. I thought pain had limits. Thought people had lines they wouldn't cross. Thought love could fix what knives had written into my skin. I was wrong. They didn't just hurt me. They studied me. They took notes on where I cracked. They watched what made my voice shake, what made my chest sink, what made my hope tremble. And then they pressed harder. They called it life. They called it lessons. They called it God's plan. But I know what it was. It was a slow execution of the person I used to be. There was a version of me who still hoped, who still thought tomorrow might be kinder, who apologized for existing too loudly, for asking for too much, for bleeding where others could see that version of me begged, cried, prayed, waited for apologies that never came, waited for hands that never reached back, waited for someone to say, I see what they did to you. It wasn't your fault. No one did. So I did what no one expected. I stopped waiting. They kept pushing me toward the edge, laughing like it was a joke, like I was entertainment, like my breaking point was something they were owed. They mistook my silence for weakness. They mistook my patience for surrender. They mistook my kindness for chains they could wrap around my throat. But silence is not always surrender. Sometimes it's the sound of something transforming. They kept carving pieces out of me. Trust, gone. Innocence, gone. Softness, gone. They took and took and took until I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the eyes staring back. They looked hungry, not for love, not for approval, not for forgiveness. Hungry for an end to the pretending, to the begging, to the endless cycle of being broken and then blamed for bleeding. So, I made a decision no one saw coming. I stopped trying to be good. I stopped trying to be healed in a world that profits off my wounds. I stopped trying to be the saint in a story written by liars. I turned inward, deep, past the scars, past the shaking hands, past the shame that was never mine to carry. And I found something waiting. Not an angel, not a savior, not a gentle light promising me peace. I found the thing they warned me about. The thing they said lived in shadows, under the bed, In the corners of my mind, I found the demon. It wasn't a stranger. It had my face, my memories, my rage, my disappointment, my grief stacked like bones no one ever buried properly. It looked at me like it had been waiting a very, very long time. I didn't run. Where was I supposed to go? Back to the people who called me too much and then tried to swallow me whole. Back to the empty promises, the holy words with hollow backs, the smiles stretched over knives. No. So I sat with it. With me. I listened to the voice I had spent my whole life drowning in apologies. I am the one they made. It whispered. I am what happens when you pour betrayal into a child's chest and call it love. I didn't argue. I knew it was right. Every time they laughed at my pain, I grew another fang. Every time they lied to my face, I grew another horn. Every time they pushed me down and told the world I had fallen, another scale hardened over my heart. Until one day, I stopped being a victim and became something else entirely. They called me dramatic when I cried. They called me selfish when I needed help. They called me ungrateful when I stopped accepting their poison and calling it care. Now, they call me a demon. Fine. They never wanted to understand me. They only wanted to control me. And what they cannot control, they demonize. They thought fear would bind me, that shame would silence me, that guilt would drag me by the throat back into their cage. But something shifted. The day I realized no one was coming to save me, I stopped asking for rescue and started building my own resurrection piece by piece, scar by scar, night by night. They wanted my destruction. They got my evolution instead. I stopped putting chains on my anger. I stopped apologizing for my darkness. I stopped pretending that their forgiveness was something I needed to breathe.
Call him a monster. Call him merciless. It does not matter. He has no need for their words, their judgment, their fear. He's beyond all of it. He gave them kindness, but they spat it back in his face. They mistook mercy for weakness. Now their time is up. They do not deserve his love or forgiveness. The only thing left is to kneel, to beg, to pray.
I was my first enemy. Before they lied, before they left, before they broke me. It was me. I was the one who handed over the blade. I was the one who swallowed the poison. I was the one who betrayed myself before anyone else ever had the chance. I let comfort seduce me. I let fear chain me. I let doubt whisper in my ear until it sounded like truth. I was born with fire in my chest, but I drowned it. With excuses, with apologies, with waiting for tomorrow like tomorrow owed me something. No one had to break me. I broke myself, piece by piece. I told myself lies every night, that I wasn't ready, that I needed more time, that maybe I wasn't built for this fight. And while I whispered those lies to myself, life was laughing. The devil was laughing, watching me bury my own power. I had a mission. I had bloodline strength. I had divine breath in my lungs, and I spat on it. Not because they tricked me, not because they chained me, because I betrayed myself first. I betrayed myself when I chose silence instead of screaming, when I chose comfort instead of war, when I chose to crawl when I was made to fly. Do you understand the depth of that kind of betrayal? The worst scars aren't the ones they carve into you. The worst scars are the ones you carve into yourself. I was my own executioner. I strangled my potential with my own hands. I sharpened the blade against my own throat. And when the world came with fire, with betrayal, with knives behind smiles, they didn't have to destroy me. I was already half dead, because I betrayed myself first. But here's the truth they didn't expect. Here's the truth I didn't expect. That kind of betrayal, that kind of shame, that kind of rage when you finally face it. It doesn't kill you, it remakes you. There is a moment when the mirror becomes your battlefield, when you stare into your own eyes and see the traitor staring back. And instead of turning away, you break the glass, you bleed, you scream, you say, "No more." That was the night I stopped apologizing to myself. That was the night I dragged my own ghost out of the grave. That was the night I swore to God, to the darkness, to every demon that thought they had me, I will never betray myself again. Do you know what happens when you make that vow? When you stop being your own enemy? When you finally pick up every broken piece of yourself and forge them into a weapon? You stop begging. You stop waiting. You stop asking for permission. You rise. I took every wound and turned it into armor. I took every lie I told myself and sharpened it into a blade. I took the shame of my own betrayal and lit it on fire until it burned hotter than fear. And when I came back, when I stood up, when I breathed again, I was not the same. They thought I was weak. They thought they could crush me. But what they didn't understand is this. I already crushed myself once, and I survived it. So now, there's nothing left they can do. They call me heartless. They call me ruthless. They call me monster. They don't understand. It's not that I don't feel. It's that I burned away the part of me that betrayed myself. I tore it out. I buried it. I built something harder in its place. So when they look at me now, they see the steel. They see the fire. They see the storm that will not bend, will not break, will not beg. And they wonder, how did he become this? I'll tell you how, because I know the truth no one else wants to face. Before the world ever betrayed you, you betrayed yourself first. And if you can rise from that, if you can conquer that, then nothing out here can ever chain you again. I am the proof. I am the scar that learned how to breathe. I am the ghost that dug himself out of the grave. I am the traitor who became king of his own ruin. I stopped caring, not in a loud way, not with screams or broken glass. No, it happened quietly, like a candle burning itself out in a locked room, with no one around to notice the smoke. One day I woke up, and the weight that used to crush my chest was gone. Not because it got lighter, because I stopped trying to hold it. They say caring is a strength. I believed that once. I held the world like it was made of porcelain, careful not to drop anything, even when my own bones were breaking. I gave pieces of myself away like spare change, like I owed the world something just for breathing. But when you care too much, too long, the world doesn't thank you. It empties you, quietly, repeatedly. So I stopped. And this is what happens when you stop caring. Everything becomes clearer, like frost on a window suddenly melting, and you can see what's really behind the glass. The smiles, lies, the apologies, performances, the ones who said I got you. Gone when the ground shook. They were never holding me. They were weighing me down. Anchors dressed as lifelines. I stopped calling back. Stopped waiting for texts that never came. Stopped explaining myself to people who never listened. They never wanted to understand me. They wanted to control me, keep me soft, keep me obedient, keep me quiet. But I am not quiet anymore. I don't bleed for applause. I don't weep for closure. I don't beg for respect from people who couldn't spell loyalty if you carved it into their skin. They tried to shame me into staying broken, called me cold, heartless, numb, as if survival is something to be embarrassed about, as if my scars are ugly. No, they're sacred now. A roadmap of every time I was supposed to shatter, but didn't, because when I stopped caring, I started remembering. I remembered every night I sat alone, keeping myself alive, with nothing but grit and teeth-grinding silence. I remembered the betrayals, the manipulation, the way they looked at me like I was something to fix, until they realized I couldn't be, and then they left. Every single one of them. Abandonment dressed in excuses, disappearing acts wrapped in guilt trips. But you know what I finally understood? It wasn't personal. It was never about me. It was about what I refused to give them. My power. I see it now. They loved the version of me that bent, not the one that burned. They loved the yes in my mouth, not the storm in my eyes. They loved the healer, not the hellraiser. But I am both. I don't hide my rage anymore. I wear it like armor. I let it sharpen my words, guide my silence, fuel my steps. I walk differently now. Not softer, heavier. Like every footstep is a declaration. Like I dare the ground to tremble. I used to flinch at the idea of being called selfish. Now, I say it with pride. I choose me. I protect my peace like it's a dying flame in a blizzard. I protect my energy like a kingdom surrounded by snakes. And if you think that makes me cruel, you were never meant to sit at my table anyway. I stopped hoping they would change, that they would wake up one day and see the wreckage they left behind, that maybe, just maybe, they'd feel remorse. But people like that don't reflect. They deflect. They twist the narrative until they're the victim and you're the villain. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing them.